Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the system shaping our world, one book at a time. Today, we're diving into a really fundamental system, the one that shapes what we believe. And understanding how it works is, well, it's absolutely crucial for understanding how we construct our own reality.
So the book we're looking at is Why I Became an Atheist by John W. Loftus. Now, what makes this such a fascinating systems analysis is the author himself. See, Loftus wasn't always on the outside looking in. He was a preacher, an apologist. He was deep inside the very system he's now diagnosing, a system he spent years of his life defending.
All right, first up, the geography of belief, a systemic pattern. Loftus kicks off his whole analysis by pointing out this massive global pattern, one that's kind of hiding in plain sight, and he uses it to ask a really fundamental question about where our deepest beliefs actually come from.
And the question is this: is your belief a choice, or is it just your location? I mean, he points to this sociological fact that's pretty hard to argue with. Your faith is almost perfectly predicted by where you happen to be born. And look, this isn't about passing judgment. It's just a critical observation, right? It's about looking at the inputs that feed our belief systems.
And when you look at the data, it's just stark. If you're born in Saudi Arabia, chances are you're a Sunni Muslim. Born in Iran, you're probably a Shia Muslim. India, likely a Hindu. Mexico, you're almost certainly Christian. What this powerful pattern suggests is that, for most of us, belief isn't really an independent, rational decision. It's more like a predictable output from these incredibly powerful cultural and social systems we're born into.
Okay, next section. An insider's diagnostic tool, the outsider test for faith. So if we accept that belief operates like a system, the next logical question is, how do you even begin to analyze it? Well, Loftus gives us a framework for doing just that. He calls it the outsider test for faith, and it's a really powerful tool for deconstruction.
The core idea is actually pretty simple, at least in theory. The challenge is to test your own inherited beliefs with the exact same level of skepticism you use to evaluate everyone else's. What this does is it forces a major perspective shift. It yanks you out of that privileged insider position and makes you look at the whole system from a more neutral outsider point of view.
And when you do that, you immediately see one of the system's biggest constraints, this built-in intellectual double standard. From the inside, we tend to think, my faith is based on solid evidence and personal experience. But when we look at someone else's faith, we say, oh, well, theirs is just based on culture and conditioning. See the difference? The outsider test is designed to completely collapse that distinction.
All right, so system reinforcement, feedback loops, and constraints. You have to ask, why is that double standard so incredibly persistent? Well, it's because the system has these really powerful built-in mechanisms that reinforce and protect it. Let's dig into a couple of these feedback loops.
This Sam Harris quote just nails it. It points to this incredibly powerful feedback loop, compartmentalized reasoning. Think about it. The system basically encourages you to have these super high standards for evidence in most parts of your life, but then to completely suspend those standards for its own core claims. It's a brilliant way to protect the belief from any real critical analysis.
And here's another really interesting pattern in how the system adapts to stay alive. It's this idea of the God of the gaps. Historically, right, God was the go-to explanation for anything we couldn't figure out, like lightning or disease. But as science comes along and provides natural explanations for these things, the space, the gaps, for a supernatural explanation gets smaller and smaller. You can actually watch the system in this state of constant strategic retreat. Okay, let's move on to the anchoring metaphor, a Rorschach world. To really tie all of this together, Loftus gives us this single, powerful metaphor that perfectly captures how this whole system works and how it ends up shaping our entire perception of reality.
And here it is. This is the big insight. The world itself doesn't come with labels. It's ambiguous, kind of like a giant Rorschach inkblot. Our belief systems, they're the patterns that our culture has conditioned us to see, the patterns we project onto that inkblot. So we're not really discovering meaning out there in the world. Our system is providing the meaning for us.
So let's wrap this up with the conclusion, a shift in perception. After all this, what does a systems-level analysis like this really give us? Well, it fundamentally changes the entire conversation we're able to have about belief. Because what this framework does is it completely reframes belief. It stops being about an independent conclusion someone reaches and starts being about the output of a massive sociocultural system. And once you see that, the whole discussion shifts. It's no longer about who's right and who's wrong.
It becomes, wait a minute, how does this machine actually work? You're not looking for a verdict on a belief anymore. You're looking for a diagnosis of the system that created it.
So the real takeaway here isn't some neat and tidy answer. It's actually a much better question. The question is this: what changes for you when you start to see faith not as a simple verdict, but as a complex system?
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind crisis and perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.